Hi guys and welcome back. Today I'm working on a completely new technique and approach to a medium that I'm already pretty new at. So there is a lot of things that I'm excited to talk about that I learned in this piece and things that I learned that I need to learn about. But yeah, a little bit about it is I'm going to be doing a oil technique that has almost more of like a watercolor feel to it on the way that it's built up. And I'll talk more about it when we get more into it. But I do want to give a really quick thank you to Skillshare, the sponsor of this video. They are so incredibly supportive for me and my channel, as well as my creativity. There's so many incredible classes over on Skillshare to help me jumpstart ideas. But specifically, there was one that I was following along when I was sketching out this painting, this sketch. And that was Illustration by Design, a guide to elevating your drawing skills. And well, it doesn't actually say it in the name. It actually really centers around the design elements that were used in the Art Nouveau era of artwork, which, if you don't know, is a time and a type of art that I found extremely inspiring for how I like to form different shapes and how I flow things from one to another. So this was a really helpful class to get me refreshed on a lot of those design elements that I had studied in the past and then haven't really studied that source material for a while now. So anyways, if you would like to get 2 months free to test it out and see if you like it and how it fits with your workflow, I do have a link down in the description so you can follow that over to Skillshare. But anyways, let's jump right in. I do want to say a little bit about the technique since we kind of blazed past that already, but at the very beginning, I carefully transferred my pencil drawing over onto just the plain untreated wood. I am following a little bit of what I think Audrey Kawasaki does how she approaches her work. Mostly it's more what tools she uses, and then I'm kind of trying to dissect it from there. But anyways, I drew with pencil my drawing, and I tried to get it as tight as I could with a little bit but minimal shading, kind of the way that I would like it to be. And after that, I sprayed it with a workable fixative. This is what she recommended, where she sprayed it first and then coated the wood with basically a gesso. She used matte medium, and I tried matte medium because I've never used that as a gesso before, so I thought I'd go ahead and give it a try, which I was actually pleasantly surprised by. It worked basically like a clear gesso, but I think the bottle that I got was a bit cheaper, so that's kind of nice. So after that, I moved on to working in these like sheer, basically glazes with oils. And here is really where it showed me that I need to do a lot more practice and research. Of course, I want that practice to be in the form of a painting like this, but when it came time to working on the glazes, I haven't really figured out the right formula for getting these really sheer glazes in the oils. So the breakdown for this piece for me was that I wanted to test out a technique of using oils that would behave theoretically in the way that my brain is a little bit more accustomed to thinking about painting, so more in line with watercolors. And I think that this technique has potential for me for sure. There obviously is a lot of things that I learned I'm just like way out of my depth on that I need to actually figure out the right technique to make it work. But I think overall, starting with this like pencil drawing that's well defined and it has at least a little bit of shading to it already built in, and then building up with glazes of paint, there we go, on top of it, I think that works really well because it's very similar to how watercolors work, how I build things up, how I like to have the structure of a piece already completely laid out and then build on it piece by piece. So yeah, I think this has a lot of promise for being my method for oil paintings. In the end of this video, it really is only like the first layer of paint on this painting, so it is far from complete. And I think that really kind of shows how naive I was going into this, because I had this clear idea of I was going to do this nice, clean, refined pencil drawing. I was going to seal it, and then I was just going to use these nice transparent glazes in my oils to add color to it, and it would just be like a one night painting kind of a thing. But really, once I got into it, and once I saw how the glazes that I was creating, how they blended together, and by that I mean I was really struggling with handling them. That really just showed me that one, I need to learn more about the glazes and how to handle them and how to mix them correctly. But also that really, to get the look that I had in my head, this wasn't the only layer that would need to happen. And I would need to let it dry first, and then I'd need to come in and add more on top of it. So that was really helpful, because sometimes you can kind of have a plan of attack in your head, and then when you actually approach it, it doesn't turn out that way, just like this time, where it really just opens up a lot of new questions and options and things that I need to solve. And yes, I'm really excited about this. I know I've already said that, but a lot of this feels very natural, but it still is pushing me in the right direction. It's including oils, which I really wanted to work in. So yeah, I have a lot to learn and a lot to figure out. If any of you guys do have recommendations on getting these like nice transparent glazes and oils, like what kind of mixture you use, what mediums you use, or ratios, mediums to paints you use, I would love to hear it, because I'm still learning. I jumped into this without doing a lot of research as far as new research for this specific technique. I've done a lot of oil research before, but I think that I needed a little bit more. I still need to figure it out. And beyond that, I think until I really test it out on my own, I'm not going to be able to know. I'm not going to have that actual knowledge. And I think that's the way it is with a lot of things, with a lot of artists. When you're reading about techniques, you can have like the book smarts, but until you actually apply it, it's not going to make sense. But I do want to talk a little bit more about that class that I watched, that I talked about earlier over on Skillshare. So like I mentioned, Art Nouveau is something that I studied a lot a few years ago, and that really is how I figured out how I wanted to approach how hair would flow from one strand to another. And that was a complete game changer for that, and for a lot of the line language that I have for a lot of things that I draw. It was really kind of this huge change in the way that I approached shapes and lines and pretty much everything that I was drawing. So it was a big deal at the time, and it still is. And it was kind of exciting to go back and watch this class that was just talking about the time that it came from, like what the purpose was for it, and also the approach that they had to it. And it was a good reminder that I'd like to go back and study those artists again, because I studied those then. It really influenced the way that I approached it. And then now that it's been quite a while, that approach has kind of changed and evolved over time, which is great. It's become more of my own. But being able to go back and look at that again and refresh some of that inspiration and remember, oh, well, this thing that I remember learning about, or I remember seeing, it looks really exciting and cool, and I would like to bring that back in. And I think that this will be a great way for me to refresh some of those shape languages that might have dulled over time rather than becoming more and more interesting. So that's kind of my takeaway, is that I'd really like to get back and study some incredible artists again. A lot of you probably know, but Alphonse Mucha is one of my favorite artists, from the way that he approaches shape and line. It's just absolutely incredible. But also this teacher for this class, he kind of breaks down different symbolisms of shapes, and he has these really quick little thumbnails that he does of them. And that was also really inspiring to me, because It's something that's a little bit more like a subconscious approach, I guess, for me, where I have a feeling for how certain shapes feel, but I'm not as intentional with them when it comes to sketching as I'd like to be. So that was a good reminder that I'd like to be much more intentional with that kind of shape language. And that is it for today for part 1 of this piece, basically. I can't wait for it to dry so that I can work on more layers and really conquer, hopefully, this technique and figure it out. But I do have that link down in the description for the 2 months free over on Skillshare to check it out. I also have a link to all of the tools and the brushes and the paints that I use to create this painting down in the description. And I also have a link to my shop. If you didn't catch the memo, I do have 2 new enamel pins available at my shop. They're both listed there, and they're both very Halloween themed, so I'm pretty excited about that. And that is about it for today, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.